Hey there, Jamin here from Uploadcare, and welcome to another video in our series where we build a file uploader using JavaScript. In our previous video, we created a simple file uploader and also implemented validation into that file uploader. In this video, we're going to take the file uploader to the next level by implementing a drag and drop functionality so that users can be able to upload their files by dragging the files and dropping them into our file uploader. Now, the complete code for this tutorial can be found in the description below. And without any further instructions, let's dive right into it. To implement the drag and drop functionality, let's first create a div element right before the input element and give it an ID of drop area. So we'll create a div and give it an ID of drop area. Inside of it, we can add a text to tell users to drop files here to upload. Next, let's style this div with some basic styling so that it will look appealing for users to interact with. So we'll use the ID of the div and say drop area. And first, let's add a border. It should have a border of 2 pixels and the border should be dashed. So it's okay for us to use a CCC as a color code. Next, let's add a border radius. Let's say 5 pixels. And a width of 500 pixels is okay. Or ideally, let's say 300 pixels. Let's also add a height as well. And this height will be like 50% of the width. So we'll say 150 pixels. And next, let's add a line height for the text inside of it. We'll say 150 pixels so it can be in the middle. And then we'll text align this center. Also, let's make the cursor a pointer and say cursor pointer. And also add a margin of 20 pixels top and bottom, and also auto for the middle content itself. And then let's also add a padding as well. Padding. We can say the padding should be 20 pixels and save. Now, this will create a drop-down area that looks like this. Yeah, this makes sense. And so, yeah, with this, we can be able to implement the drag and drop functionality. Let's move on into implementing this. So the drop area in place, let's use JavaScript to listen for file movement. So first off, we want to create a utility. First, want to retrieve the element. So let's say drop area is equal to document.get element by ID. This should be drop area. With the drop area selected, we want to listen for movement of the file such that when the file enters our drop area, when it leaves our drop area, and also when a file is dropped on our drop area. So to do this, let's create this event listeners. So we'll say drop area, add event listeners, and create. So this should be for when the file enter is dragged over our drop area. And so we'll also create a drop area that add event listener for when a drag enter is noticed. Now, in all of these drop event listeners that we want to listen for, by default, when you try to drop a file into our drop area right now, it's going to open in a new tab. So let's create a utility function to prevent that from happening while we're listening for these changes. So we'll create the utility function first. So let's say function is equal to prevent defaults. So it's going to receive an event, and then what the function will do is simple. It's going to prevent default. It's going to prevent the default behavior of the browser. So prevent default E, and that's that. So for our drag over, we can listen for this event. We'll say prevent defaults, and Yeah, that's it. And also let's do the same for drag enter to prevent defaults. We'll also do the same thing as well for drag leave. So drop area dot add event listener for drag leave, tell it to prevent default. So yeah, so that's it. So the next thing we want to do is let's improve our drop area a little bit further to make sure that we're able to indicate to users that they're about to drop a file there, or they're about to upload a file by dropping it into this area. So to do that, we're going to use a bit of CSS. So first, we're going to create a drag over class just before the styling of the drop area, just after the styling of the drop area, sorry. So we'll say drop area, drag over. So inside of here we'll add our styling. So the styling is simple. We want to add a background color, and the background color should be something related to EBF 0FE, and so this is it. And also want to change the color of the drop area to be blue. So that's it. And so with that, we can then update it on JavaScript. So let's do that. So to indicate when a user is trying to upload a file into our drop area. So first, let's add another event listener for drag enter. So we can add our class. So we'll say drop area dot add event listener, and this should be for drop area for drag enter. Drag enter. And so this should be a function. And what we're going to do is simple. Well, we're just going to say drop area dot class list dot add class. We should add the class that we created previously, and the class should be drag over. Yes, that's it. So we also want to remove this class when the item our user is trying to upload moves away from our area. So we'll say drop area dot add event listener, and so we also want to say for drag leave, leave. It should also be a function, and this should be like drop area dot class list dot remove the class drag over. So with this, it should be able to indicate when our user is trying to upload a file and let them know that they are about to drop a file into our area. So let's move on into the next functionality. So next, we want to be able to handle the drop when our user drop a file on this area. So what we'll do is we want to add another event listener, this time not for when the item is moving around, but instead when the item is dropped. So we'll say drop area dot add event listener, and say this is for drop. And with this, let's call a function called handle drop. Now, handle drop will be the function that will handle the dropping of the file and then proceed to upload the file. So let's get into it. We'll create a function that handles the dropping of the file. So let's create a function called handle drop and then handle this. So we'll say function should be handle drop, and this should be like an event. And so what happens is first we want to remove the class of the drag over. So we do not want our area to still be styled. So dot class list dot remove. We want to remove the drag over class. Next, we also want to prevent defaults. So e.prevent defaults so that it won't open in a new tab. And then first off, we want to get the list of files that were dropped in this area. So we can do this by saying const files is equal to e.data data transfer.files. And so with this in hand, we first want to check the length if there's actually any files being dropped in this area, and then we want to assign it to the original file input that we have in our page. So with this, let's say if files dot length th, and then we want to say file input, that is the file input that we have on our page, dot files should be equal to the files that we have. And so with this, we're assigning the value, we're assigning any file that we drop into this drop area to be our file input. So whenever somebody drops a file into this drop area, it's going to go into our file input. To test that real quick, we can do that by dropping a simple file into our area, and that should give us something like this. So you can notice that it's showing cat.jpg here. So with our handle drop function handling our files being dropped into our area correctly, let's take this further such that after a user drop a file, we can then upload that file into our server. So what will happen is we have to refactor our code. So by default, we already have a function that is submitted, that listening for a submit event. And when a file is submitted, the function sends a request to the Uploadcare upload API to upload our file. So what we'll do now is let's refactor this code to make sure that rather than clicking on the submit button, when a user uploads a file, our files can be uploaded automatically. So what will happen is let's create a function again. So we'll create a new function, and we're going to call this function handle file upload. And so what this function is going to do is simple. It's going to take a file and then it's going to upload our file to the server. So we already have the details for it to perform that. So what we'll do is first, let's copy this whole block of code. Everything here. We're going to copy this and paste it inside the handle file upload. We're also going to fix a number of places. So initially, we were first trying to get the file from the file input. Now, since the file is coming from the drop function, we do not need to do that anymore, but instead we can wipe this out. We can take this out. And so, and take this out. And so we can now check if there's a file and then check the size of the file, and also errors, and also all other validations that we've created previously. And with that, we can take out this submit form since we do not really need a submit event again. So with that refactored, let's head back to our handle drop function. And inside of it, when we've assigned the files uploaded via our drop area into our input, we can then call the handle file upload. So we can say handle file upload should basically be the file that we have. So files index 0. So this will take the file that we drop and upload it to the Uploadcare server. So let's try that to see how it works. So I have a file here and I'm going to try to drag this file into our drop area. So it's going to say drop file here, and we can see that it's showing uploading file. And after a while, when the file is uploaded, exactly, file uploaded successfully, and then there's a preview. So with this successfully implemented, we no longer need to have the file input showing and also the file submit button. So we're going to remove the button, and also we're going to say this should be hidden. So that's it. We've implemented a drag and drop functionality. So one problem that will arise when using the file uploader with a drag and drop functionality is file validation. So right now, the HTML file validation that we added initially would no longer work for our file uploader because users are able to drag and drop files into it. So to fix this, we're going to create our own custom validation. So just below all of the code we've written, I'm going to write a simple function that checks if a file is valid or not. So let's create this function, and we're going to call this is valid file type. And so this is going to accept the file and it's going to check if that file is valid. So let's create a constant of allowed file types, of allowed types. We'll call it, this should be an array of the files we allow into our file uploader. So we'll say image.jpeg. So let's also accept PNG images as well. So we'll say image/png, and also let's accept GIF animations as well. So we will say image/GIF. And so with this, let's return true or false if a file is valid or meets any of these requirements. So what we're going to do is, let's say, return allowed types dot include, meaning if our file type includes any of this one, the function should return true, sorry. So let's say file type. So with this in place, we can then move upwards. We can then go back to where we're trying to upload a file, and then we can then validate this to make sure that file is valid. So during this if statement, I think we can create another one. So let's say an else if statement. And what we're going to do is we're going to check if it's valid file type, and we're going to pass a file. And if this returns true, if this returns false, what we want to do is we want to tell our users that the file they are trying to upload is not valid. So hold on, there's an error somewhere. I missed the curly brackets. So yes, I missed the curly brackets. So this is how it should be done. So let's say if this is false, we want to tell our users that, okay, the file type they upload is not supported. And so we already have a message element for that. So let's say we just have to change the text content of that message to be equal to file type is not supported. And it should also have a message class. The message should also have a class of error. So we should add a class name, should be equal to error. So let's use single quotes for all of this. So file type is not supported. So, and at the same time, we also want to return this function such that the rest part of our code shouldn't run anymore, since this is an error. So let's say return. So in this case now, if I should try to upload a file that is not supported, for example, this hello world message, and I should try to upload this, we're going to get file type not supported. So with our drag and drop area in place, we still want to make sure that when a user click on the whole area, they can be able to upload a file the way a normal file input performs. So to do that, let's add an event listener to listen for a click for when somebody clicks the whole area here. So just before the event listener for handling drop, let's add another one. I will say drop area dot add event listener, and this is going to be for click. So we want to listen for click when a user click our file uploader. So the file explorer for us. So we'll say this should be clicked. And so whenever somebody tries to upload a file, not by dragging, but just by clicking on this area, this should open the area as well. So yeah. Different file input methods are vital for a great user experience. Providing all the common patterns like drag and drop, inserting links, uploading from desktop, or even social media source is key. Here at Uploadcare, we provide a file uploader that comes with multiple features to improve your user experience in your applications. With our file uploader, your users can enjoy drag and drop functionality, upload files from over 13 different sources such as Facebook, Instagram, Dropbox, and Google Drive, and even Google Photos, and lots more. That's a wrap for this video. In this video, we've implemented a drag and drop functionality and have improved the user experience of our file uploader by allowing users to drag and drop files directly into our uploader. In the next video in this series, we're going to make our file uploader more accessible by adding area labels and ensure that our file uploader is not only screen reader compatible, but can also be fully navigated using keyboard only. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss another video in this series. And until then, thank you and happy coding.